Friends, we have here one flippin' epic game. Full of asymmetric player powers, there are a variety of heroes that not only have drastically different playstyles and priorities, but their complexities also range. So this makes it more accessible for younger or newer gamers. Playing Captain Marvel or Black Panther, both of these have a smaller toolkit to play with, ranging all the way to Loki, Doctor Strange, and Scarlet Witch that cast all sorts of crazy spells and advance the gameplay even further. It can be a really fun game for such a huge range of people. Now this game is Marvel Dice Throne, which is designed by Gavan Brown, Manny Trembley, and Chatellier, published by the Op and Roxley Games. So, let me tell you all about this really fun game. In this game, or in Dice Throne in general, you pick one hero to play with, and in this box it includes 8 heroes. Here's how the game generally flows. After you finish shuffling your deck, you're gonna go ahead and draw 4 cards. And then right now would typically be the status phase. So if different characters inflict status on you, they would resolve around here before you continue on to the next phase. So for instance, let's say I'm playing as Loki. He likes to inflict this really annoying thing called Bag of Tricks, which makes you roll a die, and then different effects happen according to what you roll. So this is when that phase would occur, the status phase. And then we move on to the income phase. For us, being the first player, we're not gonna get anything to start off the game, but every turn after this, you're going to draw a card and then also gain combat points, which is going to be your currency for the game as well. Okay, now from there, it's gonna ramp up. So now we can start upgrading our abilities. For instance, right here, I have Bottle Lightning. Bottle Lightning is gonna cost me 2 CP, which are combat points. Since I started off with 2, I can go ahead and drop this down to 0 and spend those points in order for me to upgrade Bottled Lightning. All these abilities on your board, they have different general effects. For instance, the bottom right corner is your defensive ability. So when you're fighting against each other and someone were to inflict damage on Thor, he can defend using Thunder Wheel. The other ones are pretty much general attacks, and sometimes characters will also have passive abilities, like Black Panther has a passive on the bottom left corner. And the last thing you need to know about this player board is on the bottom is your ultimate ability. These are pretty hard to get, but you can also manipulate the dice rolls with different cards and different abilities as you go, which means your ultimate ability isn't going to be something that's so far off to reach, but at the same time, it's not going to be an ultimate that you perform with every single turn either. Now from there, after you are done upgrading all your cards or after playing any blue action cards, now we get into combat, the best part of this game. So you're going to roll 5 dice. And when you roll those 5 dice, you get to allocate exactly what you do with those dice. So here I got 2 reds, I have 3 blue hammers. If you want to be terminology specific, we got 2 worthies and we got 3 hammers. So with that, I'm gonna look on my board and see where I can allocate those dice. So I don't have any Bottle Lightning, I'm so far off, but I also have a choice. I can re-roll these dice 2 more times if I want to. But with those 2, I actually need 1 more red. I need 1 more worthy in order for me to perform Odin Force, which is going to deal 5 damage. And then I also get to roll 5 more dice and perform a bunch of more actions depending on what I roll. So I'm going to do just that. I'm going to go ahead and try to roll 1 more. Bam! Red on first spot. This was not a re-recording. That was actually done on spot. So with those 3 reds and 2 blues, I'm going to go ahead and attack using Odin Force, which is going to cause 5 damage. And then it says here, roll 5 more. So when I roll 5 more, let's see what I get. I got 3 hammers, and it says on 2 hammers, I can throw or retrieve Mjolnir. When I throw Mjolnir, which is the best part of playing Thor, it's gonna cause 1 undefendable damage to the other person. And then when I retrieve it back, I also am going to gain electrokinesis. He's gonna build up some electricity and then be able to increase his draw power from there. There are also red instant action cards that I can use at any time. This comes in handy a lot when you're fighting, especially when you're defending and trying to prevent damage. And then there are also orange cards, which allows you to manipulate dice as well. So it's not fully luck-based. Once I finish my attack, other person gets to respond by using their defensive roll or any other red cards or orange cards at this time, and then it goes back to me. I go back to my main action phase where I can sell cards, so you can actually discard a card in order to increase your combat points. This phase is the exact copy of main phase 1. You just get to do the same thing over again after battle's over. And then from there, it goes on to the next player, and they get to repeat the same phases that you did. So they have their upkeep, income, you get to perform any main action abilities or upgrade your abilities or sell different cards. You go into battle, roll dice, allocate those dice accordingly, and then you repeat again, and then it's the next person's turn. The first person to drop the other person's health to 0 will be the winner, and that is how you play this epic game of Marble Dice Throw.
But I'm not on the floor, staring at the ceiling.
Okay, now the usual premise, I have played this at the 2-player count only, and I've also played this 8 times, which is very uncharacteristic of my reviews. Typically, I only play them 3 times each game, but this one I wanted to experience every single hero at least once. So 8 times is the player count or play count for this. And yeah, the first thing I want to highlight is how unique each character truly is. Miles Morales, for instance, he's super agile. He has these invisibility tokens that allows him to actually defend against undefendable damage, which is very different. He also has 2 different defensive skill sets that he can use to defend against other players. Usually other characters only have 1 defense ability. Miles Morales has 2. He also can web people up so it can guarantee the next hit. He also has combos, which is really, really fun. I wish it extended to 3 combos just to make it that much more satisfying. But his combo dice are seriously the most fun thing about this character because you can use your attacks with 1 whole set of dice, spend a combo token, and then do the whole thing all over again. It's so satisfying. We have Black Widow, who is throwing bombs to the other player, and every time during their upkeep phase, you have to roll to defuse the bomb. Every single time, and if not, it's going to advance the bomb, and then when it explodes, it's going to explode for 4 undefendable damage. You have Loki. His illusions are so ridiculously annoying, like in a good way, and the reason why is because Loki has this illusion deck just made out of 3 cards. So every time you attack him and he uses this illusion, you have to figure out and pinpoint and throw a dart at the exact one that's going to land a success. If you don't hit a success, then the other ones are going to like mitigate your attacks in some way. His illusions are super annoying. He also has these bag of tricks that is going to cause you to have different status conditions when you're doing it during your upkeep phase. And he can also block your abilities by putting these spellbound tokens on your abilities to cover them, so they'll temporarily block them during your combat phase. So every character is so incredibly unique. It's really immersive and it's tied into the actual IP, it's tied into all the Marvel heroes. And I really feel like each character is so true to their IP, and I absolutely love that. Bottom line, if you want to experience your favorite Marvel heroes in tabletop form, this is one of the best iterations of that, and then some. Number 2, this game has very reactive gameplay. And because of that, it invites like jaw-dropping dice rolls and a ton of entertainment value. Let me tell you now, I'm a very obnoxious gamer to play with, I guess, because I'm just like super loud. I'm pretty sure I lost my voice like 3 or 4 times playing this game because I'm super dramatic when I do my rolls and everything. And if you're looking for that entertainment value, if you're looking for kind of like that shock factor or just people crowding on the table to see who's gonna win, this is the type of game that's going to invite that setting. Now, everyone has access to these red cards called instant reaction cards. And honestly, when a card game has this, you know, at least for me, I know that the gameplay is going to be really, really good because you can play them at any time. And I love being able to react at any moment. So that's what I really favor in card games as well, just to, if I'm trying to account for my bias here. But with these instant reaction cards, you are suspicious of the cards that your opponent has in play, and it makes you think, should I play this high damage card now, or should I play little bits of damage so I can kind of inch away at their health and like tick away at their health before playing this instant damage so they can react with an instant card to block damage immediately? Because this actually happened. I was playing as Captain Marvel. I was going to do a light torpedo for 7 attack. Black Panther health was super down, and he honestly probably would have gotten down to like 2 or 3 health, but they responded with Black Panther's card. I think it was called Vibin. More on that in a bit. But that card reduces the damage by 6. So then instead of losing 7 damage total, he only loses 1 health. And that's such a huge difference. And that makes the gameplay incredibly reactive. And I love little tidbits like that. And what's especially cool about that is that it's not just a one-time thing. There's this constant back and forth and a ton of play interaction. So if you like take that mechanics, you're gonna get a lot of that here. Okay, I got a couple more points that I wanted to mention, but if you are enjoying the review so far, if you like this cinematic spin that I put on board game reviews, please consider subscribing because we are on the road to 20,000 subs and I can't do it without you. Okay, so point number 3, I'm about to use this word. But I know a lot of people get very passionate using words like, but I'm gonna say it anyway because I feel like the characters here are very balanced. And out of the 8 plays that we've had, there doesn't seem to be a very dominant force. Now, again, I've only played with every character only once, but I mean 8 plays and there's constant back and forth. I feel like each game, each fight, we're always like neck and neck, and the health only differs by like 10 and 15 by the ending round. And let me give you some specific examples. So like Scarlet Witch, for instance, she's great at giving different status tokens and inflicting her chaos magic all over the place and doing some drastic damage at once. But her pitfall is that she doesn't gain combat points as high as everybody else. Second example, Loki. He has terrible defense. He actually doesn't defend damage at all. Instead, he tries to avoid it completely by using his illusions and using his tricks in order to avoid damage and kind of blocking your spells so he avoids getting hit at all. Doctor Strange, everyone usually has like a standard spell or a standard attack on the top left corner. Like for instance, Captain Marvel here has Photon Punch. If she has 3 of those symbols, she'll deal 5 damage. Hex Bolts for Scarlet Witch using this. But then Doctor Strange comes in and he has these tomes, but it doesn't deal the same amount of standard damage like Hexbolt and Photon Punch. Instead, his tome is all about drawing cards and gaining different status effects. Like Deja Vu allows him to completely redo his offensive role. Here's the bottom line. I want to keep playing this game again and again. Ergo, there's a high replayability factor here because you really want to just spend time discovering the strengths and weaknesses of every character and seeing how those compare with every other combination of characters that you play with. And that is incredible. Every game that incentivizes you understanding that specific character more, I feel like is a huge plus for me when playing games for sure. Now, speaking of characters, there is one thing that I am a little bit disappointed with. So Miles Morales, Captain Marvel, and Black Panther, those 3 are, in terms of their complexity level, they're ranked like 2 or something, or they're really easy to learn and they're like your starter characters. We'll call them starter characters for now. And the rest just increased in complexity, which I think, you know, on one side is amazing because again, it invites a much bigger audience to learn this game and it makes learning it easier. So the accessibility factor is for sure a plus. But the problem is once you learn the game already and you start experiencing the more complex characters like Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, Loki, all of those being like the highest complexities, once you experience their toolkit, it's kind of hard to go back to Black Panther, to Captain Marvel, because their toolkits are so simple. And it makes you crave more complex gameplay. Here's what I wished that they did instead, kind of appealing to new gamers and kind of appealing to experienced gamers, is to actually form like an easy mode and a hard mode. Take a look at these status boards. Here we have Black Panther. We have kinetic energy and vibranium suit. Kinetic energy just piles up, and then once it's all over, once you reach the 8 stack limit, then it pretty much explodes and performs this final action here. Vibranium suit, you just discard it in order to prevent damage. But there's this whole empty section that you could have used in order to give him more abilities. And I feel like you could even have abilities listed here and just kind of gray them out and say this is for advanced play. And then if you compare him with Doctor Strange, like look at the immense toolkit differences between those two. I just think it would have been more fun in terms of the replayability factor for these starter characters to have their abilities like grayed out or something. Because then I want to go back to Black Panther and experience his full toolkit, but instead I only get kinetic energy and I get a suit. But he could have had like, I don't know, like access to the ancestral plane or all these vibranium weapons or like these magical ancient artifacts. There's so much more to explore with Black Panther. And not just him either, but with Captain Marvel too. I wish he had more because one of her skills actually rarely occur. Like Cosmic Flare, most of the time it's going to be Radiance and Cosmic Ray. But then Cosmic Flare rarely happens anyway, so it's pretty much like she has these 2 skills only. And again, a huge empty bracket here where he can fill in with more skills. Okay, moving on to the final point, point number 5. This is the last thing I wanted to mention about this, about today's review. And for Dice Throne, well, this is my first experience even playing Dice Throne to begin with. So the Marvel one is the first one that I played out of all the Dice Throne series. Kind of makes me want all the other ones, to be honest, because of how fun this one is. But I was really afraid going into this Kickstarter that this was just going to be a raw dice chucker and then just deal damage depending on what shows up on the dice. I'm so glad that it's not that. So if you think that this is purely luck, if you think that this is just going to be a dice chucker with not much thought put into it, honestly, it's far from that. I know the Board Game Geek rated it as a 2. I think it's a little bit higher than that, to be honest. I feel like it's like a 2.5. But what's fascinating about this game is that once you roll dice, there are a lot of options for you to figure out where you should allocate your dice to. So yes, it has that Yahtzee mechanic, which is forgiving, and that's a great thing in this game because then you can re-roll twice, you can re-roll for a 3rd time in order to guide your dice to where you want it to be. But with that first initial roll, you have no idea where to put your dice in yet. And then once you gather those dice together, then you can start manipulating them. Like for instance, Scarlet Witch, she has the Darkhold. It's gonna give her more draw power. It's gonna give her more probability manipulation. And when she uses this token, she can manipulate the dice values from 2, 4, 6 to 5, 3, 1. And there are so many different abilities that do that, not just on Scarlet Witch, but for every character, because there are even standard cards that allows you to re-roll your dice. And bottom line, it's not just luck, but that element of surprise is there when you do roll dice. I absolutely love that. I found it fascinating, and there's a lot of skill involved and a lot of thought. You're asking yourself a ton of questions with every single round. Like, should I play this now? Should I wait for it? I wonder what they have in their hand. Should I go for my ultimate ability? Should I save it for spellcraft? Should I use it for defense? Should I heal now as Thor? And I just love asking myself all those questions. So with all that said, that is why I think this is the best game to come out this summer. And I'm giving this game a final rating of 4.6 out of 5. You will love playing as your favorite heroes because everyone plays so differently and true to the character. From throwing Mjolnir as Thor to webbing up people as Miles, it is incredible. Unique heroes, 5 out of 5. For reactive gameplay, I'm also giving this a 5 because being able to react to different plays throughout the game makes it highly interactive. There's so much play interaction, and figuring out when to save cards, when to play them, being conscious of what cards the other player has left in their hand. These all leave questions in your head that make it incredibly fun. Character strengths and weaknesses, another 5 out of 5 because each character is so unique and they have so many things to explore and different combos to play with, from their character deck to their status board to their player board. The complexity spread is a 3 out of 5 for me because the starter characters are fun at first, but I really wish that there was a separation between like an easy mode and a hard mode, or like a full mode. I get why they did this because it does make, you know, learning the game a lot faster and easier at first, but then when you revisit the characters that you do want to play at a high complexity, you kind of wish that there was more to them. It makes you wish that there was more to offer from Captain Marvel and Black Panther like all the others. And lastly, dice manipulation is a 5. Now this is not a chuck dice and deal damage game. There's so much more. There are many ways to change numbers, to re-roll sets, to reallocate dice, and the options for you to play with makes this dice gameplay really, really fun. But yeah, I love how it's travel friendly, but then there's a ton of complexity in the game. It's very satisfying gameplay, so I can see myself carrying, you know, a couple of trays to different cons and stuff. And I'm just looking forward to experiencing this even more. With that said, I can't wait for other characters to come out. It's nice that they have the less conventional characters here, like Loki and Miles Morales, but I still miss Iron Man despite him being on like the classic roster, Captain America, Hulk, and I would love to see Moon Knight, especially in Dice Throne. So hopefully that comes out in a future expansion, because sign me up for an instant pre-order and back if they do so. With that said, I hope you all enjoyed today's review. Let me know your thoughts down below if you are looking to get the Marvel Dice Throne. If you enjoy the gameplay so far, I would love to know your thoughts. Who is your favorite hero? Let me know in the comments below, because mine has to be Doctor Strange right now. Not a surprise if you've been following this channel for some time, but still true to his word. I just love being able to cast all these crazy spells and just manipulating people to the T. Thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you all in the next one. Tell me why the custom-made dice for every character is so satisfying. I can't stop rolling these, honestly. Dramatic roll initiated in 3, 2. Already rolled. Why did I count to 3?